So today we have Lindsay Wood, the tiny home lady, and she's going to go in depth on all things ADUs and how you can add to your property. So let's get into it. Hi, my name is Casey Gray. I'm a realtor, mom, broker, associate, and I love helping people love where they live. And thankfully today I have Lindsay here to learn a little bit more about adding an ADU. So I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Casey. It's so great to be on this amazing woman, the Hometown Girl channel, because Ukiah is where I grew up from like 10 years old and on. So I went to high school here. I love it here. I've lived all over, pretty much, I've lived a lot of the Bay Area and even some of the world. Ukiah is a gem. Mm-hmm. It's a gem to live in. So for anyone thinking about wanting to live in Ukiah, definitely check out also why you don't want to live in Ukiah, because you have that video as well. Those are always important things because you got to know what's right for you. So yes, as she said, I'm Lindsay Wood, the tiny home lady, and I'm all about ADUs, primary homes built to the modular or movable codes, and we'll talk more about that. And I really want to help people on their journey. I'm the go-to guide, and I guide people with a lot of clarity and confidence because this is a new world. Mm-hmm. And we do it with heart, right? We want to make sure there's a connection to this is your home, this is your family, this is rental income, whatever it may be. We want to give you the right path to go forward.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to ask Lindsay some questions. She's going to answer, and then she is always available for consultations and helping you decide what's right for you. So if any of the questions that come up while you're watching this video, feel free to reach out to her. I'll leave her contact information down below and at the end, and you can always ask her questions too.
And I do discovery calls, so that's a great segue into, it's on my website, it's easy for people to click on, it's on every page.
Perfect, love that. So what is an ADU?
ADU stands for Accessory Dwelling Unit. And I think that's been a lot of confusion because I've heard people say, I want to put many ADUs in my backyard. That would be more like a multi-pronged approach, planned unit development. I'm throwing out some jargon because the ADU or Accessory Dwelling Unit is actually the legal definition in all the codes and zoning and all of that states have adopted, that have jurisdictions. When I say jurisdiction, city or county, like we're in the city of Ukiah, but we're also in the county of Menesino. Yeah. So those ADUs are the primary home has to be on the property and an accessory to that home. Yeah. That's the best way to understand it. We used to call them granny units, mother-in-laws. I've tried to research, like, where did the mother-in-law come in? Like, mom-in-law is in the back.
Just the mother-in-law, not the father-in-law.
What about the father-in-law?
Not the regular mother.
Cousin, house, whatever. Yeah. So I think one gentleman found there's like 69 different names for it. Laneway house, up in the north. So there's a lot of cottage, casita. But it's ultimately the legal definition is accessory dwelling unit and accessory to the primary. And in California, it's up to 1,200 square feet, which is super exciting.
Which is super exciting. Also, could you explain the difference about a modular ADU?
Perfect. So on-site construction is something we're all used to. I know my family and I, back in the 80s when we lived here, Ukiah was being built. Right? Yeah. You go around now, as a real estate agent, how many homes, you're like, when was this built? Do you find a lot that were built in the 80s?
A lot built in the 80s, a lot built like in the 50s and 60s.
Sure.
Too. Like there was, 20-year boom.
Exactly.
But
there were neighborhoods where like, this is a whole new development.
Yes.
And we would go in for fun, be like, is this the bathroom? Okay, is this the bedroom? Or, is this the utility closet? And we would do that for fun on walks with family. That's on-site construction. So we're very familiar with that. Yeah. That takes time. That takes noise in the backyard. That takes inspectors coming out, taking a look at every, waiting. Oh, we have to wait for the inspection. They're ready to move forward. Yeah. And then that's got to, they can't move forward unless they're checking the ref and plumbing and all of that. Modular, shortened to off-site modular construction or factory-built housing law, which is the name here in the state of California. And actually many states adopt the factory-built housing law. Yeah. But when I say factory-built, what do we really think of? Yeah. Like the old manufactured homes. So this is where it gets a little confusing for many people. Is it a mobile home? Because we used to call the manufactured mobile. Mobile, modular.
There's a lot of words.
So the modular is short for the factory built. It's built to the same code as the on-site construction, only it's built in the factory, arrives on wheels, either driven in by and put in by a forklift or craned in. I just went to a crane delivery in San Francisco. Quite exciting when you see something floating up and over a home.
Yeah.
But many of our lots that were built in 50s, 60s, 80s didn't think about the ADU back then. We had bigger land, things were more affordable. Now the ADU is needed because it gives people more flexibility on their property.
No, that's a great way to explain it.
Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded.
No, I don't think so. It's hard because there's so many different ways that people categorize things, and the things tend to get a stigma attached to them too.
Sure.
Which, nowadays probably factory built is just as good, if not maybe better, because that is the only thing that they're doing over and over again.
Yes.
Repeatedly. So it's in good conditions, checked just as much as
Yep. And the difference of the HUD, just to give you a little like the manufactured versus modular, just one very key difference. R19 is a 2x4. That's a very common insulation, but state code is R23. And in the ceiling, it's R30, which is a 6-inch ceiling. You have to have a lot of insulation.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 6-inch. Some of the builders I work with do SIP panels, but they're insulation value. And that's what helps keep that hot air in or cold air in, whichever time of season you're in.
Yeah.
And then the HUD home is also improving, the sort of manufactured home. They call it HUD, built to the HUD code. So some people can still go forward with the manufactured home, but it's not your grandma and grandpa's mobile home or double wide.
That's a great way to say it. So what are some opportunities in Ukiah for building modulars?
So Ukiah is unique in the sense that we've got just gorgeous mountains and all that. However, the job training and skills and those kind of big workforce that you might find down in the Bay Area isn't really present here. For bigger developments, absolutely. If someone's going to come in and build like a 20 unit, which we've seen a lot of, right? You've seen the biggest development has happened in bigger apartment buildings. Well, of course, you can bring someone from farther away to do that, or local, but they can also bring in jobs for that. What about the ADUs? These are more your onesie, twosie, homeowner led. They're not your multiplex bigger development where efficiencies get built into the whole pricing. So the modular really makes sense because it can be built in the factory elsewhere. However, there's some opportunity with some companies that actually create some of the structural, like the SIP panels, to potentially create more jobs here. Because a lot of the homes that burn down, Sonoma also had homes burned down, and a lot of the job trades go south where they can make more money. So we're kind of up against that scenario, and I think the modular helps with maybe there's a factory in Sacramento that can deliver something here. It's only a 2-hour drive for them, but there's a lot more population and maybe more job trades. I still fully believe though that this area would benefit having some type of factory or satellite factory connected to a bigger factory.
That would be awesome.
And I'm working on that.
The opportunity for...
So I need connections with contractors locally that have like a warehouse that may not see that thing being used a lot, that they could be doing that and then also be doing other things. So it just balances out the ability versus going and getting a big warehouse and hoping sales come and then it goes up and down.
Figuring all that out. Okay, well, if you are a contractor looking for some opportunities, make sure to reach out to Lindsay. So this all sounds great to add additional income to your backyard, be able to let your mother-in-law stay there. Your kids, when they turn 18, you can just kick them out to the backyard and not to the streets or whatever it might be. So what are some things that people should be aware of when thinking about adding one of these ADUs to their property?
So after selling 11 ADUs to homeowners pretty much in the Bay Area, the biggest thing to be aware of is the size of your backyard. There's a few things. There's the size. What unit are you looking for? Some people's backyards can only fit a studio, a 1-bedroom. You're going to go from a studio to a 1-bedroom. As a realtor, do you think a 1-bedroom is far more rentable than a studio?
Yeah, for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
So if they've got the space, I always recommend at least getting a one bedroom, because it's not that much more, but it really helps for that flexibility of like even a couple could live there with one person doing the bedroom office thing. That's how I think. Or a kid, right? You've just had a baby and you're a single parent. You can kind of navigate that. But a studio is like, we're all listening to everybody.
It's a lot, and just rentability too. You know, a studio versus a one bedroom makes a big difference in, you know, people's mindset when they're looking for a rental and seeing the price difference too. As like a rental opportunity, you know, you might get $1,500 for a studio, but you could get $2,000 for a one bedroom.
Exactly.
Basically.
And that's another key part to be aware of. What are you using it for?
Yeah.
It might be what you use it for immediately, family, friends, or rental. It might go from, I want it to be a rental, but eventually my 8-year-old is going to be 18 and they can go in the back. So I really like to think of it as flex housing.
Definitely.
And that's going to be far more valuable for people. You know, a lot of the issues with like investors having really bought up, you know, housing and then rented is the mortgages are so high that the rent can't meet the mortgage. Are you finding that?
Yeah, it's a common thing. So like we hear a lot too, and like in 2008 it was okay for people to walk away from their house because they could go rent a house for a lot less than what they're going to pay their mortgage for. But now the rent is going to be the same as your mortgage. So you have to have a place to live. You have to find something. And that's where our lack of housing has affected the rental income, the rental market, the housing market in general, because people are stuck in these houses that they don't love. They don't want to be there, but there's nowhere else for them to go. So we have smaller units where someone can move their parents into their backyard.
Yes.
Can then get out of their 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house, and then the couple that has 3 kids and are in a 2-bedroom house can purchase that. And you know, we need the cycle of housing to flow, but right now we're just stuck, especially with finding like a lot of people in lower interest rate homes. And so there's the opportunity is there to be able to make a move, but how do you do it, and how does it make sense on paper if there's, you know, such lack of housing? Our biggest development, you know, subdivision wise, was the West Fork Estates, and that was in 2001 now, so that's more than 20 years ago.
Like, we need more.
And they're working on it, of course, and it takes time, but any impact we can make, you know, adds to the drops in the bucket. And make a big difference.
It's largely been built out. It's not like there's swaths of land to then still keep developing. If there were, it would be being developed. So what's left is backyards all over. And then what it creates is multi-generational connection. You've got a kid, you've got a mom. Like, there's people during COVID, I read stories of like, we're going to just sell all of our homes and go live on one property together. You know, and families coming back into that. And I know from growing up in the 80s, it was all about like, go big or go home. And it was go and be your successful self. Like, that worked for back then. Now it's very expensive. And I think we've also tapped into being around family is really valuable. Do you have eggs? Let's come over for dinner. And the aging population with the boomers and the millennials is literally the biggest growth sector in our market. And our boomer family is growing into their 70s, 80s. They need more support. And so does families. I mean, and the beauty of having your grandma around to say, hey, can you take care of the kid for an hour? I need to run to the gym. That is like gold.
Invaluable.
That's priceless.
No matter what your fee is, that's for sure.
Right? So now this ADU becomes way more than just this valuation. Whatever it may be, multi-generational housing is what we get to create for a legacy.
Or you ultimately just have to figure out your why and what that's going to do for you. As far as setbacks go, improvements, things you have to do to the sewer lateral or the septic system, what can you talk a little bit about some of those regulations and guidelines that you're seeing?
Yes, so after 50 plus assessments, so out of those 11, it took like 60 or so different site assessments that I went out to and doing. And it's really evolved to this ADU feasibility study. You know, early days when I was just getting familiar with it, I was measuring, 5 feet from the setback line. It's 4 or 5. State code is 4. 5 foot is that fire. So in certain jurisdictions, people have to be aware. I like to just say 5 feet.
Just to be safe.
If it ends up being that, oh my gosh, I need that extra foot because that's literally what I need to do, then there may be some fire rating materials that have to be put. They may not have a window on that side of the property because we've got that part where the other neighbor is 5 feet setback, and then this, so we need 10 feet between structures, and that's fire code. If it's shorter than that, they just need better fire rating. So that's something that a lot of people, it took me like, I keep hearing 4 and 5, and it drove me nuts.
Yeah, you have to figure it out.
Yeah, but you should have someone knowledgeable. You're going to measure fence to fence, from structure to back fence, and then in that space, you can usually go like 4 feet back from the house. That's like opening the door and there's a wall. I'm like, that's too close for me.
You want to be able to still enjoy your property.
But some people are like, I don't care. I want to fill the backyard with home. I'm like, okay, that's to your own discretion. You've got that setback. Also, height is a consideration. Some people need to go up if they want more square footage. I have a project in Fairfield that they only had 440 square feet on the ground, but they wanted more space. And they were allowed to go up 2 stories with their ADU in their front yard. We'll see how that looks, but
it's interesting. But
they're using their space, right? So they're going up with that because a lot of the neighborhood, if it's 2-story in the neighborhood, likely it will be allowed.
Yeah.
Other things, the water, sewer, electrical, they have to be connected. So if you're dealing with, let's talk about the most challenging one first, sewer. If you're in Mendo County, you might have septic. If you're in the city or any kind of city connection, it's going to be far easier. Most likely you have a main home on your property, and you have a septic system that was designed for that. Most likely it wasn't designed for over what that main home was, because who wanted to pay for that? If they had foresight to like, let's add more and more bedroom to that septic system, then you could do that. I'm not seeing that. Most likely you're going to have to expand your septic, unless we come up with creative things above ground septic stuff, but you're not finding too much like compost ready counties or cities. The electrical and water, I always find on every property, one of the 3 is right next, like 10 feet away. And then one of them is at least 50 to 60 feet away from the ADU. So you're gonna be doing trenching. Your yard is gonna look scary. You might have to dig up that beautiful concrete. If it's pavers, those are easy. You just take them out. They dig the trench because they have to go down to be able. If you've got a long distance for that sewer, like you're talking sewer lateral, then you might need to increase. I learned this recently. If it's a long distance, you may need a 4-inch pipe because you can only do a 1% slope. But if your distance is shorter, you can do a 3-inch and then meet the 2% requirement. It's all about the requirements at the end of the day that the jurisdiction will allow. Very property specific. She's got it.
Okay. Well,
so you have someone come out and do that study. And what I throw in is, what's your future value of this home? What are loan options? What are all this stuff inside? Then we take that and we shop that around. Because when you work with me, you're not going directly to a builder. A builder will sell you their solution. But I'm learning that there's all kinds of solutions out there.
I love that. So could you talk a little bit about financing for these type of projects?
Yes. So financing is the best part about modular homes is financing is widely available. And the beautiful part about California homes, your equity has gone up. Unless you just bought the home like 6 months ago, right? You're going to be pretty much on par. But for many people who have been in their home, we'll talk about that first, home equity line of credit. That's like your go-to, it's your credit line in your home. A lot of people don't, squeeze that juice out of that lemon, and it's a great opportunity that doesn't touch your first mortgage unless you want to, right? Then into second mortgage, you can also get into construction loans, renovation loans. There's some benefits to how you work with a builder. A lot of them will require a lot of money down payment. But what's up front is your permitting time. I'm actually of the mindset, don't take your money out and take big. Do the permitting first, maybe with another group. There's also organizations do one-stop shop. I've seen that can be good and bad. So this is the part where I tease out with people. It gets a little more specific to, of course we get into credit, capital, what, equity do you have in your home? What is your income? How much income ratio are you using? So there's professionals that I work with that I send them there because, you know, you do what you do.
It's just like financing is, we could run the numbers all day, but it's not until the lender actually sees them and can figure it out. Exactly. So that's a great, it's awesome to have somebody that can help you navigate those decisions because it's a large process and people aren't doing this every day. So, you know, you're kind of just like us and helping them guide them through the process in many different ways. So that's awesome.
One more thing about the financing, there's a really cool product, I forgot what the name, something with equity in it, where if you have a certain number of cash flow in your account and it checks it daily, like it's got this automation going on, it can actually be as low as 4%. So for people that don't want to take their cash out, but they have it in there, making money on money, whatever account that's connected to, that part I don't know. But that's a really cool product that you can use your equity, have a lower interest rate, like everyone's searching for that, you know, long ago 2%. When's that coming back? I don't know. We'd love it to come back. But that is a product at 4%. And that's very attractive, but it's not one that you're like, I only have so much money in the bank. That's not necessarily for people like that.
And this is a great opportunity for people that do have a lot of equity, do have a lower interest rate, do not owe a lot to their current mortgage, and can, you know, add on to their property, add on to their values, add on to their monthly income. It's a great, you know, resource to kind of explore those options. So
and another one part of that multi-generational with all the boomers. I just met a woman, her husband passed away, she's solo in the home. This might be a great time to bring in a renter. Now many homes, they're like, I just lived with my husband for 30 years, now he's gone, I don't know if I want a roommate, and go back to the college days. ADU. Or you can even put in fences to say, yes, this is still, you know, your little world. Your section, but we have privacy and we can still connect.
Or I think you mentioned you have a project where they're moving from the home to the ADU because it's nicer and newer and a little bit smaller
for their needs.
Maintenance, you know, and then
they can ADA into the shower because the other one, they've got a 2-story, which they can't use now because they're not able to go up to the 2-story. They may be in more of a wheelchair mode, so they got to have the, you know, so all that whole new home is designed for their current life, not their old home. And to remodel that, they'd rather get the income. You know, they're in Vallejo, so the income for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home is going to be great.
A lot higher than what their needs are, and they can just move into the ADU. So I think the opportunity too. How does someone find out if an ADU will fit in their yard or their property?
Perfect question. Discovery call. I offer that at thetinyhomelady.com. There's this nice little question when you sign up through my, you know, appointment setter, because you get to choose your own time and your own thing on my schedule. I love that. No emailing back and forth. When are you available? Blah, blah, blah. And you get to put in your address. What I do on the other end, pretty much I would say 99% of the properties, I can just see from Google Earth measurement on there. I mean, that's the beauty of technology. And then say, here's what's going on. Here's some of the issues. And then I've even done it where I've sold an entire ADU just from looking at the Google and then sending pictures. They went out and measured their yard. They did it's not hard. Go stand there, measure to your back fence. You know, even if you have to do toe to toe. It's not exact, but it's a thing where we can do a virtual assessment for free. The real deal, like ADU feasibility study, that's got a fee.
You have to be.
That's more of like really going to get specific, but you can at least kind of do let's figure this out.
So where are you comfortable working? Like what areas should
all over the country.
Okay, perfect.
Because that's the beautiful part about technology, about partnerships that I create. So I've been doing this for about 7 years. I've worked with a number of different builders successfully. And, you know, I also know what to look for because I've also had builders go out of business on me. That can be, my failure is your benefit.
Our experience is the reason why you're, you know, paying for it because we've dealt with those kinds of things and know how to.
It's things to look for. It's the thing that I just mentioned. Your permits before you pay a big chunk of money up front. Think about a construction loan so that as you send out little bits of money, there's progress and milestones that builder has to meet. We've all heard the scary stories. You don't have to look far to go, contractor going out of business, people losing money.
Yeah.
We want to avoid that. I want no one that I work with, and yet I can't control the companies that I work with, but we can control how we set a contract.
Yeah.
That's valuable.
Yes, invaluable. Really.
Yes, I know, right? Because at the end of the day, you want your home, you want the thing of why you said yes to it. We don't want any issues, of course, pandemics and things can happen, but we need to make a plan best that we can.
I always say, like, if you feel like you had a smooth process, that was why you hired me, because on my side, it was not so smooth, but because I was able to handle those things before they got to you, it felt like a easy process. Versus, sometimes hiring the wrong person can like kind of implode those issues.
That's the 3 C's. My clarity, confidence, and comfort.
Well, I like that, yeah.
Right? Because there's the heart in it, right?
Yes,
Your comfort, like, I feel like she's got me.
Yeah.
And then I put the options in front of people. You're still going to have to do a choice.
Yeah.
Think about car dealers, right?
But
like, come in.
Yeah.
Here's all your different cars.
Yeah.
They don't make the car.
No.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The Toyota, Chrysler, whatever makes the car, but they're helping you into your options.
Figure out,
You with real estate.
Yeah.
A, B, and C, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, growing family, all those things.
Yeah, you're essentially like a tiny home broker.
Yes.
But for all
She said it.
I said it. I don't know if there's a license for that, but
There actually is not, believe it or not.
if there's one to get.
Because modulars, think of them as widgets.
Yeah.
They're not real estate until it gets put on the land. Then, now we want to sell it. Now that's your department, right? And wouldn't it be great for more properties to have ADUs that could be sold? So another cool thing that I could see,
yeah, I can touch on it.
is listings. Yeah,
for ADUs, if you have one on the property, any sort of, if it's your primary residence and you're getting a very low down payment loan, like a conventional 3% or an FHA 3.5%, and there's an ADU, they can count income towards your income. So if it costs more, then it will, in your income, maybe say you're pre-approved for $500,000 for a regular house, and then this one has an ADU, you could be pre-approved for up to probably closer to $700 due to the income from that property, from that ADU. And so it allows you to have more flexibility, allows you to have some support with your mortgage payment as well.
Yes.
So take some of that stress off of people for having to pay all of it.
And do you want to hear a hack about that?
Yeah.
Hacks, we love hacks. So your daughter is 18 now, she's ready to launch, but financially you don't want to strap her with a rental income. The bank doesn't know that she's not paying you $500 a month.
Oh yeah.
It's submitted that you're going to be generating $500 a month income. I'm just using that as a number. It could be 1,000. Seems like 20 years ago rental rates, but say it's 1,000. You put that down as part of that investment income. It's a hack. I mean, she might pay you 1,000. Maybe she doesn't. She pays you that first month, and then, hey, mom, I need help.
Yeah.
Right. Parents help kids. Why not have that on the property that she's eventually going to inherit anyway?
Yeah. Definitely.
Biggest generational wealth is in real estate, and if we don't set our future kids up for transferring that wealth, and that's where I feel like a lot of people, current renters today, are paying the same as if you can get into a regular, but you may not have the down payment. But if you were able to rent, then you can. And if it is a real renter, great. Then no hack needed.
Perfect. Yes, there's lots of hacks, life hacks. So is there anything specific that somebody might want to know about tiny homes in Mendocino County?
Yes, so as the tiny home lady, I got my launch going from Marin County. It was very expensive. We actually found a tiny home on wheels because we wanted to travel. We didn't honestly want to buy an RV because there was all those adorable tiny homes online that was attracting us. We said, all right, let's go down that path. This is way before the tiny home lady was born.
Yes.
And the sole connection for me and my path in doing all this advocacy for housing landed right here in Mendocino County in my backyard, where we encouraged the county of Mendocino, and I know a certain mom on the supervisor board that was part of this momentous decision to say, yes, an ADU can be built to the modular, but it can also be built to be movable. Built to an RV code. It's still an RV code, it's still standard, it's still certified, but it's more known as personal property. And one benefit to that is that you don't pay property taxes on that home. Because the ADU you do pay. It's about 1% of whatever the total was. Let's say it's $100,000 total cost for the ADU. You'll probably be paying $100 a month extra in property taxes. That's a big question people have. plus check your insurance company because we're dealing with insurance stuff.
All the things.
All the things. But and that's one of the things I include in my feasibility study because I want everyone to know everything about what they're doing. But if, for example, your 18-year-old you have space to pull something on, you're still connecting to all the same utilities. You bring a movable on that can also be moved away.
Yeah.
You can also have it as your primary. So primary and ADU and land, and you don't pay the property taxes, but you also don't increase property value.
Yeah.
So as you know, as a realtor, if some appraiser is going to come on, they see 2 movables there, they're including that in the valuation of the property.
Yeah. But it's still a great opportunity to have some, short-term income if someone else on, or have someone like your child come and stay, or grandparents or whoever, and have those opportunities, or even while you're building your house to be able to have
big one. Yes,
that
we'll live in the tiny home.
Yeah.
We're going to build up our money or and then build our dream home in front. That's actually a lot of people's mission. Or we'll park it somewhere looking for land.
Yeah.
Right? You may need to buy your home, find some place to still rent land, but at least half of your rental income that you're spending is ownership in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing such great, valuable information. I think what you're doing is wonderful work, and if you haven't been able to tell, she's passionate about tiny homes. I didn't even know your name for the first 5 times we met because I just know the tiny home lady.
Right. That's good, right? Lindsay created my whole story in our own journey, created the tiny home lady, and I feel like she acts like Stephanie to Lady Gaga, right?
Yeah, just your liaison.
Yeah, the connection to power. It's sort of like Lindsay Wood by night and tiny home lady by day.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, it's a wealth of knowledge. You can book a discovery call on her website. You can make sure to follow her and support her on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else that she is, because the more information people learn about this, the more we will make a difference in the housing.
And follow her channel. She is super powerful. This woman is the generation that is making changes happen in our housing right here in not just Mendocino, but also Sonoma, right?
Yes.
You expand down there, so a lot of need down there as well.
Yeah, everywhere. So whether you are in Ukiah, Mendocino County, or across the United States, make sure to reach out to Lindsay. She would love to help you. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.